Welcome to the Macmillan Report. I'm Marilyn Wilkes, your host, and our guest is Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations. He is at Yale today to give the George Herbert Walker Jr. Lecture in International Studies at the Macmillan Center. Equal parts diplomat and advocate, civil servant and CEO, the Secretary General is a symbol of United Nations ideals and a spokesman for the interests of the world's peoples, in particular the poor and vulnerable among them. Mr. Ban took office in January 2007. In June 2011, he was unanimously re-elected by the General Assembly and will continue to serve as the leader of the United Nations until the end of 2016. Mr. Ban's priorities have been to mobilize world leaders around a set of new global challenges, from climate change and economic upheaval to pandemics and increasing pressures involving food, energy, and water. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. It is truly an honor to have you here with us today.
It's a great pleasure for me to visit the Yale University again. I was here January 2010.
So thank you for coming again. We do look forward to your visits. So while I have so many questions I would love to ask you today, unfortunately we only have so much time. So I'd like to begin with one of the more pressing problems in the world, the civil war that's going on in Syria. What is the UN doing to help resolve that conflict?
United Nations has 4 priorities in addressing the Syrian situation. Unfortunately, sadly, the Syrian situation is deteriorating by days. During the last 20 months, more than 25,000 people have already been killed. Millions of people have been displaced. We are seeing almost 500,000 refugees around the countries, in the countries around Syria. 4 priority means that first we have to put an end to this intolerable level of violence and start immediate political solution. Second, we have to provide the humanitarian assistance to many people affected by this. At least 2.5 million people have been displaced here and there, and almost 500,000 people are being hosted in 4 countries, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey. The humanitarian situation, as winter is approaching, will be much more serious. And we have to protect the human rights and human dignity of many people there. And fourthly, we have to unite the international community's very solid and firm will to resolve this issue. The international community has been divided, let alone the people of Syria themselves. We cannot continue like this way. I have been telling President Assad, listen to their people most attentively and carefully, and stop violence. Unfortunately, the recent proposal by the joint Special Representative Lakhdar Brahimi and myself for a even brief pause during Muslim holiday has been neglected, ignored. So many people have been killed. Now that opposition forces seem to be united with electing their own coalition leader, I sincerely hope that the opposition also will move in a coherent way so that dialogue can be started. What is most important at this time, all the countries who have influence on Syria must not provide arms and equipment and funds to both sides. This will put their people only into a greater misery. This is not the way. There is no military solution. There should be a dialogue. There should be a political resolution in this. United Nations is firmly committed, and I'm also very much committed in addressing this issue.
Ultimately, though, what do you think it will take to resolve the conflict?
Ultimately, there should be an end to violence, then the representatives of both parties should meet and try to resolve this issue through a dialogue and a political resolution. They should agree on their future of their own. This is the Syrian people, a Syrian-led solution. That's the best way.
Okay. Let's move on to two of the big global challenges that the UN is addressing, climate change and food security. I think most people would agree at this point that undeniably that there is global warming taking place. The bottom line is, what is the UN doing to help save the planet?
I'm glad that you raised the issue of climate change. Since I became Secretary General, I have put this climate change issue at the top of the global agenda. I have been trying to sound alarms to world community that we cannot continue like this way. We cannot burn our way to prosperity without realizing the limit of planet Earth. If human beings use our planet's limited resources like as we are doing, we may have to have another planet. Unfortunately, and in reality is that we have only one planet Earth, not two. We don't have any plan B because we don't have any further resources. We are stepping over planetary limitations. That is why I have been urging world leaders to, first of all, agree on a legally binding treaty by 2015. This is an agreement by the world leaders that we will have to agree on a legally binding treaty by 2015. This is an institution, a legal institution, but we have to mobilize necessary fundings. We have to help many poor and vulnerable group of people because they do not have any capacity to adapt and mitigate the impact of this climate change. Then we have to establish a Green Climate Fund. About 3 weeks ago, the world community has decided to locate the headquarters of a Green Climate Fund in the Republic of Korea, where they will have to mobilize $100 billion annually by 2020. Then thereafter, every year, $100 billion to help poor and developing countries. This is absolutely necessary through transfer of technology, by providing financial support. We have to put the highest political priority. I was very glad when President Obama, in his recent election night, when he was declared winner for second term, he said about this warming planet. That means he has in his mind, a high priority on climate change.
Yes.
I'm ready to work with all the leaders. I believe that the United States should lead this campaign. United States is, after all, the world's richest and most powerful country, and they should lead by example.
Have you spoken with President Obama about leading the cause?
I have discussed this matter many times. He has been quite committed. In 2009, when there was a United Nations climate change conference in Copenhagen, he himself participated with the world leaders all through the night. And I was very much impressed. Since then, we've been working very hard to address all global challenges: climate change issues, sustainable development, global health issues, women empowerment, energy issues, and global education issues. All these issues, global challenges, should be addressed by global participation through a collective political will.
Do you think that the majority of the world's leaders are doing enough to combat climate change? Are they working with you?
I'm sorry to say that the world leaders have not done enough. They know that there's a climate change causes, without regard to any boundaries, national boundaries, whether you are coming from rich or poor countries, whether you are coming from Asia, Africa, Europe, it doesn't respect the national borders. As we have seen recently, Hurricane Sandy, even though we cannot say that we cannot attribute any one cause to the effect of this Hurricane Sandy, but we have seen these days extraordinarily powerful and disastrous extreme weather patterns.
It's getting worse and worse every year.
It's getting worse and worse. This is definitely caused by climate change phenomenon. The science has made it plainly clear that it is a human being which has been causing this climate change phenomenon. And therefore, it should be human being that to address this issue by preventing from happening again. We have a moral and political responsibility to hand over this planet Earth to our succeeding generations for millions and millions of years so that they can live in environmentally hospitable and sustainable way.
Right. Well, hopefully the world leaders will come together sooner rather than later to work on this extremely important problem.
That's what I'm going to do as the Secretary General of the United Nations, just to raise awareness on climate change issues. I have been visiting during the last 5 years all the places around the world where I could see for myself the impact of climate change, the consequences of climate change, starting from Antarctica to North Pole, the rainforest in Amazon and Kilimanjaro, melting
you can
ice.
See the effects everywhere.
Yes, or desertification as well as a deforestation impact. So we have to stop the burning, these greenhouse gas emissions, and make this planet Earth environmentally sustainable.
Right. Yeah. Food security, another huge problem for many parts of the world due to rising population and also rising food costs. What is the UN doing to help deal with that problem?
When the food crisis happened spring 2008, I immediately established a global task force to address these food security issues. Then recently in Rio de Janeiro, during United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, launched Zero Hunger campaign. It is unacceptable that even today, nearly 1 billion people go to bed hungry every night.
It's a staggering amount of people.
Because of the price hike, because of the long spell of drought or flood, desertification process, we have limited agricultural product. But if you count all throughout the world, we still have enough food. It's a matter of how to distribute this food equally, equitably to people.
Does the UN have a plan for that?
We have a mandate, we have idea, we are trying to make everybody fed without any lack of nutrition. Particularly, it is sad that many millions of children die before they celebrate the 5th birthday. So United Nations has raised the campaign, what we call Every Woman, every child. Our ambition is that during the forthcoming 5 years, we will save 16 million lives, mostly women and girls and the children. This has gotten a lot of support from international community.
How will you save them, though?
By providing food, by providing nutrition, and by providing the necessary sanitation and health support. This is to provide to every woman and every child the health service, because so many women and girls are dying needlessly from preventable diseases.
Right.
Yes.
What countries are you focusing on?
There are many countries,
Yeah.
particularly poor developing countries, mostly in Africa, in even Latin America, and also Southeast Asian countries. There are many, many women who are dying while giving new birth. Then why should a woman die? To give a birth.
Right.
Yeah. Our target is that the woman in South Sudan should live as a woman in Sweden can live. Almost 100% of women in European countries, they live while giving birth. But 1 out of 5 women dies while giving birth.
Yeah.
This is injustice.
Yes, there's
so unacceptable situation.
a great many.
The United Nations is paying great attention on this. I have raised this campaign, a partnership with Secretary Clinton of the United States, and it has gotten, I think, most support from international community.
Good, good, very good. Well, I would love to chat with you for the rest of the afternoon, but unfortunately I know you have a lecture to give. So I thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much. It has been a great pleasure. Let's
Okay.
work together to make this world better for all.
I would
we
love
need the
that.
support from academic communities,
I agree.
universities like Yale.
Yes, problems of this magnitude need everyone to work together.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
For more information about Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, please visit the United Nations website at un.org/SG. Be sure to join us again for another episode of the Macmillan Report, made possible through funding from the Whitney and Betty Macmillan Center for International and Area Studies at Yale.